Hello, today we'll be talking about reading strategies, more specifically the PTR reading strategy. And in order to understand the reading strategies, we need to understand why we should use reading strategies. In order to truly learn and comprehend a text, sorry. In order to truly learn and comprehend a text, we need to truly understand what we are reading. As the author says, there is no quick and easy procedure that can allow us to read a text more quickly and still understand it to equivalent level as careful reading. And this is just saying that if you skim it, you're not going to understand as if you carefully read it using a reading strategy that we're going to discuss. The PTR strategy works for me as it helps me gain a deeper understanding on the readings and how to really take my time on reading and how a little goes a long way. When I review my annotated notes, I even save time studying because I focus on what to study as I have already highlighted the key points. Van Berkelum in the text says how if you pause at the end of every headed section or page and think about what you have just read and you recite it or mumble it, the main points and concepts were presented. And this is basically saying, like, if you go through and like you say out loud, like for example, if I read the PTR reading, if I read out PTR every time, then I'm gonna have it, or likely I'm gonna remember it more if I would have just skimmed it. What is PTR? P2R. P2R is preview, read actively, and review. That's why it's two R's. The P and then two R's. To preview is simply skimming and reviewing to get a glimpse of what you are about to read. Then you read actively, and this is where you focus on reading, but add highlighting and annotating to what you feel is important. Once you did the first two steps, you review, and this is where you retain information as you understand and go back, and then you underline what you feel is the key points and what you need to understand to truly understand the text. Reading with purpose and strategy adds a few extra steps that lead to higher retention by readers. You know what to expect, and the little things make the information stored in your brain longer. As Berkman also said, a 2 to 5 minute preview will increase and your comprehension, build interest, and reduce the total time it takes to read the chapter. The comparable reading strategies is the SQ3R, which is surveying, question, you read it, then you recite and you review. That one is a longer process, which is why you like the my reading strategy better. And then the S run R is survey, read, underline, note taking, and review. And I like the P2R simply because it's less steps and more time effective. I cut down on steps and is more simplified as a two reading strategies, but it still gives me a deeper understanding of the text. It has helped me in my natural hazard class as I actually saw a difference in my midterms after applying the reading strategy. In the midterm one, I received a 67%, and in the midterm two, 88%, and I believe that's due to the change in my study habits after module 7. And here's an example of how I've used the PTR in my lecture notes. First, I previewed, then I went through and underlined, circled the main ideas. Then I read actively and went through the highlighted key details to understand the main ideas. And finally, I reviewed, and you can see here, and I highlighted the key ideas and specific points that I wanted to remember. What did I find different using the P2R is that as I seen on my already handwritten notes, I went back and I studied them using this reading strategy, and it helped me retain my information and get a better test score. I found myself being able to describe the topics, not just knowing what they are, but being able to elaborate on the exam. And as I had struggled on the first exam with the short answers, in the second is where I came back and got a better score. The key takeaways is why reading strategy should be used, what and how P2R works, and how I use it in my school. And then I compared the reading strategy so you can make the decision on what works best for you.